morning. I'm here with Mike McLaughlin, our treasurer. And Mike, it's been, I think, 6 months since we last met. We're here to talk about the AGM. I'm going to let you proceed through with a small presentation, just so that when you look into the AGM, I know you've got the stuff on an email, all the information Mike has sent out, but this kind of gives you a bit of a clarification and maybe answers some questions you have regarding this year's budget, last year's budget, and next year's budget. So Mike, I'll let you take it away from there.
Okay, thanks, John. One of the first things I'd like to say is it's been a very interesting year to be a member of the executive of the golf club, and it's my last year as a member of the executive. I have reached my term limit, so after 4 years as your treasurer, I will have to step away from the role, which is good for me. The 2021, we've received the audited financial statements, and I did present those at the town hall meeting that we had in June. But the interesting part from those audited financial statements is that, one, we had an unqualified opinion. There were no management letters, there was no comments from the auditors about anything untoward happening at the club. So that's all good stuff. That's the kind of opinion you want to receive. The net result for the year was that we, from operations, was a positive contribution of $397,535, and that's compared to the prior year of $174,607. So in there, though, we did have a large wage subsidy that bolstered that amount. But if we take out the wage subsidy, we still had a very positive return from our own operations. At the end of the year, our unrestricted assets were $423,318, and that was compared to the prior year of $225,967. The accountants can get into their debates as to what that actually means. So at the end of the day, we're in pretty good financial position, and this is actually the second consecutive year that we've had a positive contribution. And when we look back over time at the last 10 years, well, we're looking at a series of negative contributions with one exception. So financial performance is really quite good. I always like to talk a little bit about membership. Our total membership in this year compared to last year, we may be down a couple, but those are in classes that we were capping the membership category. In the intermediate area, in the trial member area, and as well in the junior sponsored. But our gold or full members have actually grown in numbers, and we're really well ahead of our low, which was about 160 gold members. We're now up to 260 gold members. And I use those as approximate numbers. You'll see the actual numbers when we get to the count at the AGM. But the numbers are really quite good, and we're holding our own on the gold membership. In 2022, we're looking at a net contribution in 2022 of about $158,000. Again, this is a little less than what we had hoped for, but it's still a good contribution. And when we break it out between the results from operations and those that are contributions or additions to our capital fund, then it works out really quite well. In 2022, John and I were talking earlier, but we made a slight error in the calculation of the amount that would come from gold memberships, because we had inadvertently included the gold spousal in with those membership numbers, which inflated that number. So when we see the numbers coming out of the gold category, we're down slightly from what we had budgeted, but it's not a terrible situation. The other one was we had budgeted for more flex membership use of the course. As you know, the flex members, as they play, they pay a green fee, they pay something up front, and then they pay as they go. So we were seeing less flex activity, and that's something that the golfing operations has to look into. But overall, our membership revenue, we had budgeted for $1.6 million. I'm going to get the exact number. $1,605,000, and we are forecasting $1,580,000. So it's down about $25,000 from what we had planned or budgeted. So it's not bad, but it's not as high as we would like. When I look at things like food and beverage, again, a lot of people tell me that food and beverage in a private club is something that we have to expect to have a loss. And I don't accept that as a premise. And right now, with my forecasting, we're actually forecasting a small loss, but it's smaller than we've had in other years. We're looking at about an $8,000 loss. But when I start to look, and those predictions were made based on the end of August numbers. Now I'm looking at the end of September and looking into October and how we're advancing on food and beverage, and I think, by golly, we might well have a profit. But I'm not going to state that as a reality until I see the final numbers.
The devil's always in the details.
The devil's in the detail, and you never know what's going to happen. The one real positive area this year has been our pro shop sales. Our pro shop sales have been extraordinary, and we've been reporting on this time after time at the board meetings, and we reported on it at the town hall update. We're doing really well in terms of pro shop. So at the end of the day, we're now forecasting when we have all the things that are attributed to the pro shop and all the costs associated with the pro shop, about a $10,000 net contribution. Now, with the pro shop, we have all the guest fees are going through the pro shop accounts. So, but that, to me, the pro shop is the area that runs the tournaments, that runs the guests through. So I'm attributing those revenues to the pro shop for that reason. But it means that the costs of all our pros and the costs of all our back shop and everything else is essentially being covered off. So we're in really good shape.
That's terrific.
And I've had questions about the Golf Academy. The Golf Academy, in its first year, we got a late start because of COVID. We ended up with a net contribution of $31,260.
Wow.
And the cost to put up the Golf Academy was $68,000. We believe that by the middle of this winter, we will have fully recovered the cost of putting up the academy. It'll still show in our books as we depreciate those costs over the next few years, but if you look at it on a return on investment, we will have made our investment and becomes a total profit center after that, which is really good.
Amazing. What a great story that is.
And then the other area that I would just highlight a little bit is Joel. We give Joel a budget, and we sit down with Joel, we go through his budget, what his needs are, where he can trim it, where he needs more, where he's being a little too lean on himself, and we arrive at a budget that makes sense for what his needs are. And every year Joel comes in on budget. So kudos to Joel, and this year we're expecting him to come in on budget, and actually he may have a slight under on his budget, giving some of his staffing difficulties. But right now we think he's coming in on budget. The admin, building, and other areas that we look at, we've had to do a lot of what I would almost call reconstructive surgery in areas in our computers, and we're going to have to continue to spend money in computers. In the buildings, there's things going on in the buildings that really require immediate repair and maintenance to take place. So we've had a much larger maintenance budget, a much larger computer budget, overruns in those areas that are reflecting in the numbers, but they had to be done. We're getting some fixed costs. Our utilities costs are going up, and that's because utilities are charging us more. So those kinds of things. So, but other than that, it's working out the way we had effectively expected it.
Great.
And the great thing is that at the end of this whole thing, we can say we did have some COVID challenges, as I said, with the academy. We've had COVID challenges with being able to recruit and retain staff. Every restaurant in Ottawa is fighting to get staff. We're seeing it as well in the pro shop. Joel's facing the same thing. How do we recruit and contain and maintain staff? Our membership recruiting and retention has been terrific. We're doing a really good job of keeping our members. Costs were well controlled by management, and the net contribution, as I said, is projected now at about $160,000, and we have this year invested in the club $290,000. That's going into building the academy, master plan things. There's been emergency repairs that have been required. There's been other projects, the new push carts. I could go on, but you'll hear about those.
It's been a while since we've put that much money into the club, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, and part of keeping a club sustainable is having the ability to reinvest in the club. And we went through so many years where we had no ability to reinvest in the club. And now we're doing this, we're reinvesting in the club, and I think it's been a very, very positive, and it gives the experience of new members coming in and seeing a club where we are taking initiatives and we're putting money back into the club. And I think that to me is absolutely fundamental. So when we start into 2023 and we're looking at what does the budget look like, well, we look at first, what is it that we need to do to reinvest in the club? What are going to be the operating costs that we need to incur in order to provide the membership with the experience that they want to have? And those become the driving forces as to then we look and say, so where is the revenue going to come from in order to pay for these things? So establishing first, what money do we need? And then second, what is the revenue that we're going to get? So then we look at our revenue sources. Membership is a big issue. So our membership committee looks at what the marketplace will bear, looks at what other private clubs are at, and we're still well below what other private clubs are at in terms of our membership costs. If we just go down the road, we're looking at there a $5,000 a year full membership. Here we're looking at $3,710 for full membership. So we looked at that and we said, okay, what do we need to do? And we debated it at the board and came back and said, okay, a 6% membership will meet what it is that we need for 6% increase in general membership is what we need in terms of the cost of the member. So I looked back and I said to myself, well, where were we at in 2019? In 2019, a membership here cost $3,700. Membership in 2023 will be $3,710.
Ugh, we're still below that.
So we're looking at, I look at it that way, and I sort of say, wow, we were at a point, and then we dropped the cost of our membership strategically. We did that in an attempt to attract people. It worked. COVID helped us considerably to attract the members. But if a member is looking at it and saying, what was I paying 3-4 years ago? What am I paying today? It's almost the same.
Yeah.
And we're faced with inflationary pressure. We're faced with wage increases. We're faced with more members requiring more staff to be put in. And again, with an aging building, we've taken a decision. We need a part-time handy person to come in and work through the season to just do general repairs and keep the lights going and all that sort of stuff. So we're putting all those things into the new budget. So we'll see that at the AGM, that those are our primary concerns. And at the end of the day, we still end up with a net contribution forecast at about $200,000. I just want to say one last little thing. In those numbers, and everything again is estimated, so you have to wait until the year's over to figure things out. But in that, we're seeing a capital fund that is, we put money in, take money out, but at the end of the year, we end up with about $200,000 in capital fund. I'd like to see that a little higher, but I'm happy to see that we at least have that. And on the operating side of things, the number is going to be around $242,000 of an operating reserve, and that's your rainy day fund.
Yeah.
That's the one, if something goes wrong, where do you get your
And you
money?
try and keep it at that rate. You
And
don't want to go too high.
I don't want it to go too high.
Yeah.
So if it goes too high, I want to move the capital, move the any operating surplus into capital so that we can reinvest in the club. And we have some major investments that are coming down at us in the future. So let's not be too anxious to spend all the money at once, because we do have some things that members would like to see, and some things that are absolutely necessary. And I'm thinking in particular with our maintenance building that is coming to the end of its life cycle, if it's already not beyond its life cycle. And we have to put a plan in place to fund and what's needed out there. First, you have to know what you're building before you start gathering. Well, you gather some money, but you know that you want to know what you need. You don't just build to what you can, how much money's left in the bank account. You need something that's going to have some durability, last 25, 30 years or whatever. And that's something that the next board's going to have to work on, because I'm predicting that within 5 years we're going to have to replace that building.
Mike, that's interesting. One question I do have, I'm just wondering, because of the number of, it's harder and harder each year to get a tea time, are we reaching a limit as to the number of people we can accept as members?
Well, I think that, and this is something that we're trying to balance between the playing committee and membership. The goal that I would see is that we want to have as many full members as we can.
Of course.
And then we bring in additional members who are less than full members, not paying the full amount, but we want to then fill the rest of the course with whatever membership we can. And so in that sort of a scenario, I'm thinking that we're looking, like right now we have about 700 golfers, but they have different golfing privileges. The ones that are golfing with full golfing privileges amount to about 450, and people have thrown out different numbers. I don't know what the right number is. I'm not a golf architect or a golf pro, but I'm expecting that these people that have the expertise will come back and say, this is how many you can afford to have, and then maintain the ability to have guests and tournaments and special events and whatever at the club.
So that's still yet to be determined, but we are approaching a number.
Well, I think the board had taken the position that as the golds went up, we would reduce the number of trials and the number of intermediate members.
Right.
So as the golds go up, so that's the position of the board. But those are the areas that we can cap. And Cameron is working on the numbers now, but we're going to see that there's been a significant conversion of trial members to gold members.
That's terrific.
And in the past, we've sort of said, well, we've had some trials, but nobody stays. Well, we're having trials now, and they're staying. We had the program of Gold 1, 2, 3, where it was a reduced rate until you got to your third year, and then you jumped to a full gold member. Those people are converting into full gold members. So we're seeing it happen. So, and golf is on the rise. So we've got to keep it that way.
Well, Mike, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I know you've got. Were you going to talk about the capital projects?
No, I wasn't.
No, okay, but it's there. But I want to thank you very much for this update. You're leaving it way better than when you found it. We want to thank you for your hard work. I know hopefully you're going to be helping out behind the scenes the new treasurer in some way, in some capacity, because and I know we're getting some additional office help that was put in for this, but unbelievable job you've done over the last 2 years. You certainly set us on a great course. And it's so nice to get positive news. I remember going to budget meeting after budget, or AGM after AGM, and hearing the budget forecasts and going, gee, I don't know if that's going to happen. And then finding out it didn't. And now it's not only happening, it's happening way better than what we thought. So thank you very much for your service.
I did want to add one last thing, well, maybe two last things. I'm going to say that with the AGM package, we published the dues schedule.
Yeah.
So the dues are set by the board. That's within the bylaws. So that dues schedule is what people should be looking at and making their dues payments on time. We have two ways of doing it. You can either do it as a lump sum, or you can do it over 6 periods. But the first dues payment is due on the 1st of November, not on the 20th of November, not on the 31st of November, 30th of November, but on the 1st of November. So I'd like to see people respecting the dues schedule and putting their dues together. Now, if you're going to pay in a lump sum, please let the office know. Those that pay cash or electronic funds transfer or debit, we give them a 1.5% discount. Those that want to use their credit card, there's no discount, but this is the only time we allow people to use their credit card in the club. And I'd really like to see as many people as possible pay all their dues up front, because that way we build our cash reserves. We don't have accounts receivable that we have to worry about, and it makes it a lot easier on the staff. So anyways, I would appreciate if people would take that due schedule, figure it out, and get their dues in on time to the club. And lastly, I want to thank all the club members and all the board and all the people that have supported me over the 4 years of being the club treasurer for my second round of club treasurer. People have asked, I've been on the board 14 years in total, but always on committees when I wasn't on the board, and I've only been a member of the club 22 years. So,
well, you've got so much valuable expertise, and thank you very much, Mike. And hopefully that'll give you a little bit of an intro into this, the AGM. Not an intro; it's pretty complete. And if you have any questions now, you hopefully a lot of them have been answered, but now you know from a
and please come to the AGM.
Yeah. Well, it's a Zoom meeting.
It's a Zoom
meeting
meeting
this year. Yeah.
Please tune in.
Thank you very much.